Welcome to Original Scale Modelling. This is part 8 of Tamiya's Kawasaki Ninja ZX-12R. Scale is 1 to 12. In this part 8, I'm going to be carrying on directly from part 7. So I'm going to be working on the fairing on the bike, placing on the seats and getting into the lights. If I have time, I should also include the decals as well. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. So to begin with, I'm placing on the seat. Now, the seat comes in two parts. The main seat there, as you can see, I've painted it in Tamiya's XF1 flat black. And the rear part of the seat. Now, the instructions tell you to fit the rear part before fitting the main seat. I found this quite difficult to do. I couldn't quite get it to fit. Also, I realised it was better to lift up the fuel tank a little bit just to slip the seat into before fitting the back part. Now the back part does have two little lacing points that it slots into. Again, like I explained in the other video, it's saying you don't really have to cement this, but I found that you actually do. It will just pop off. There's nothing much for it to grip onto. Now, I only used a little bit of cement, just on the inner little location point that you see there. I also found it helpful to take off the back fairing also. Now, as I said, I didn't cement this because I didn't call for cement, but in the end, I did cement everything together because it just kept on popping out. It didn't look flush. So once that was on, then I was able then to put on the back piece of the seat. It was a simple fit, really, but I think maybe perhaps the instructions got the order wrong and how to place these. I think maybe the seat should have been on first before the belly pan and the rear part of the fairing. And what I'm doing here, I'm just trying to fit it without using the cement at the moment, but it just didn't sit properly, so hence why I used the cement. Once it was in position, it was time to put on the top covering of it. This is the part that was used as a holding bracket to assemble the rear fairing, but now that it goes on permanently, again I use cement for this. Just to hold it on. It's not meant to have it similarly, but as I said, I think it's better with the cement. So now it's on to the front and rear indicator lights. The stalks are painted in the same black colour, and the lenses are pre-painted. There's no need to place any colour on them, and they just sit into the housing. The wing mirrors come in two parts. The first part, the cavity part, that's got the actual lens of the mirror. That's simulated with a bit of foil that came with it. These are the foils that weren't pre-cut. You have to cut these to size. There is a border printed around the foil for you to cut around. But as I said in a previous video, it would have been better if they were pre-cut. The number plate, you can have it on or off if you want. There's a simple decal to put on. There's no actual number plate as such. This just says Ninja, I think, on it, something like that anyway. The back to the wing mirrors, once everything settled down, there was a simple case putting the lens onto the housing. It should fit in, and it sits a bit proudly on it. I wasn't sure whether this should fit flush or not, but after a bit of coaxing and pushing it wouldn't go any further than it did, so I just assumed that that's how it's meant to look. So while I was trying, I can then place on the front cowl and the windscreen. Obviously the two parts line up with the the front headlight lenses. The side of the cowl fairing should butt up against the other side that's already in place. You will need cement for this. Again, no matter how much I tried, I could not get it to line up and stay put without cement. And it's worth pointing out as well, I did knock off a couple of little bits. This little fin thing that I placed on. I was building this again. I would leave these till last bit because I kept on hitting into them and knocking them off. It wasn't a great issue. It was just a little bit annoying, really. So once everything was dry, it was time to put on the indicators. Each one has its own dedicated location point, of course. A fairly simple process to fit. They just push in. Again, make sure where you're putting the cement, because you don't want it to touch the clear plastic. And when you place the cement on, give it a minute or two, let the vapours evaporate before placing it on. That way the fogging should be down to a minimum, if none at all. Before I place on the rear indicator, there's 4 little pins that go on the back here. I think they're probably latches off with pinions or something like that. They're just little pins, they get pushed in. Then while they're drying, I'm going back to the front and placing on the wing mirrors. Now these were quite difficult to fit. The area where they are, it's not 100% clear how they should go, and the contact points, because they're so close to the windscreen, you have to be extremely careful with the cement, more so than normal. They didn't want to hold. I had to hold these for a few minutes until they wouldn't move. In fact, one in the end did drop down without me noticing it, which is really annoying. But that's the nature of these. But I got one on okay. The other one, as I say, it sort of dropped down. You can tell a little bit there that it's like that. I didn't actually notice it so much until I started taking photographs of the completed build. Or I could have just knocked it when I was putting on the rear indicator. That was a possibility as well, of course. Now, these rear indicators don't go on the fern. They go on the main framework of the bike, just behind the number plate. I did use the canopy glue, however, on the windscreen. I had a little bit of a gap. I think it just popped out when it was set, and there was just a hairline gap, so I'm just using a bit of canopy glue to fill that up. That'll dry crystal clear. In fact, that's the product I'm using, so it won't be too much of an issue. But I'll leave that to dry for a few hours before I go on to the next step. And that is just a little bit of paint touch work, especially on the wing mirrors. Because I had difficulty fitting them, I damaged the paint a little bit, so I'm just tidying that up. It wasn't any major paintwork having to be redone. There was just little scratches that I had to paint out. So now everything's dry and settled, it's time to place on the decals. And the decals are going on the normal way, so I'm softening them up in warm water. This water's actually slightly too hot, and I'm using microset as my decal solution. Now, there's not that many decals to go on. The instructions are not exactly clear what variant you should be using the decals for. The instructions say 2000 version or 2001 version, so I wasn't sure which ones I should go on. They're all very similar anyway, so I just picked up one version, the 2001 version, and worked off that. I may have missed it on the instructions, but I couldn't see on the instructions if there was different parts for different variants, so I would assume it's the same bike, just with possible different decal changes. It could also be for the colour as well, if not their classic green colour, maybe the red or the black or something like that. Now, I wasn't sure whether the decals will show up on the clear green either, but I think they do actually. I think they hold up quite well. They're not perfect. They don't stand out as if it was a solid colour, of course, but the trade-off with seeing the inside workings of the bike to a solid colour, I think that's quite a good trade-off. I was worried about any watermarks on the clear plastic as well. I didn't know whether the decal solution would leave a watermark. And in the same vein as well, I haven't varnished this at all. I didn't know whether the varnish would interact properly with the clear green. Now, I know on canopies and things like that, my acrylic varnish works fine, but I just wasn't sure, so I didn't want to risk it, because, as I said, I wanted to see the inner workings of the bike. If I was painting it as a solid colour, then it wouldn't be an issue, of course. As it turned out, it wasn't an issue. There was no watermarks that I was able to see anyway. Mind you, my eyes are getting quite old and bad, so maybe the camera will pick something up, I don't know. But the initial worry more than warranted. I think the decals went on quite well, and I didn't see any watermarks afterwards. So this will end part 8. In fact, it's the end of the build. The next part, part 9, will be the final review. I'm yet to edit that video, so I don't know when I'll get around to that. I'm quite busy at the moment. But hopefully I'll get it up within the normal sort of time frame. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, and please do so, make sure you hit the notification bell. That lets you know any new builds coming up, as well as the other parts to this building, so there's just one more part to go. Don't hit that like button, that really helps, and of course feel free to leave a comment and share the video. Now, I don't generally push the channel, but if you share it, that would be great. You know, if not, don't worry about it. I'm just happy I do these things anyway. So I'll catch you all later on part 9. Thank you all very much for watching. Bye for now.